Hello, everybody. My I had people telling me this morning that reading from my book, the chapter 9, that the volume wasn't there. And when I went to test it, sure enough, the volume wasn't there. So I did check the speaker and the microphone, and so here I am now live. And this is about what I promised, right? I'm reading from the book You Missed God on the Way to the Mosque, the Temple, or the Church. It's one of my books, How to See God Everywhere. And if you have questions about it, I've got some information in the YouTube of how you can reach me in the description. And I have a few follow-up books, which is What Reaches You Was Never Meant to Miss You. Maybe this book was meant to reach you. And then also What Misses You Was Never Meant to Reach You. The Path to Peace, learning to trust the doors that close and the ones yet to open. These are ways to live, right? And talking about the book, You Missed God on the Way to the Mosque, the Temple, of the Church, God is everywhere. In my experience, I'm not trying to convince anybody of anything. We don't have to do anything. We don't have to wash a certain way. We don't have to pray a certain number of times a day. We don't have to do any of those things in order to earn God's love. So let me just tell you, in my experience, I'm not trying to convince you of anything. I had a near-death experience. If you've listened to any of my podcasts or read any of my books, on November 13th, 2002, I was doing a seminar. I was fine. 1 second, never had any symptoms. Next second, I needed an ambulance. I felt like I had been knifed or stabbed in the abdomen. And the funny thing, or not so funny anymore, was I was grateful right away. People were in a panic, scrambling around me. Steve, are you okay? We called the ambulance. Oh my God. And I was like, I don't know how my body's doing, and I'm grateful. And when the EMTs came, I gave them the same answer. I don't know how my body's doing, and I'm grateful. And they were like, oh, how could this guy be grateful? They were expecting me to be screaming, I don't want to die. For the first time in my life, and I'm embarrassed to say I was 50, the month before that occurred, I was totally present. It was okay. Whatever happened next was okay. And that's, as I reflect back now, the reason I didn't fear death, I was more afraid of really living because I was doing other people's work and not my own work. But deep down, I wanted to do my own work. And now, since 2003, after I got out of the hospital and recovered, which took from November until April, 100 days in the hospital, 60 of those straight, 40 out of the next 60. And then actually over the next 2 years, a lot of weekend hospitalizations and weekday hospitalizations while my pancreas was recovering, because I have less than 10% of it left. And 5 days later, after the 13th, my heart stopped, because your body fills you with fluid to protect you from the digestive enzymes that are loose in your body cavity doing what they do, which is digest. And so it turns out that it wasn't for a couple of years that they could even go into the pancreas and look. I have a blockage in my pancreas. So I'm a walking miracle. No symptoms of the major heart attack. With 2 friends at the end of my bed in intensive care. 1 second I was with them, and the next second I was one with everything and nothing. One with immense mercy and grace and light and love. And there was no past or no future. I call it the now on steroids. And that's one of the reasons I wrote this book. Because years ago, I thought I'd be a priest. And when that didn't happen, because on the high school bus one day, I met a young lady named Sophie. And there was no way I was going to be a priest. So she was a real gift. I knew, right? It flashed forward before me that Mrs. McGillicuddy would have been bringing spaghetti for Steve a couple nights a week, right? I mean, people would have been like, what's going on with Father Steve? So I knew that wasn't going to work. And I started a study of all the other faiths, the Torah, the Kabbalah, the Quran, the Vedic traditions, of course, the Bible, which I had been studying. And I can tell you that in my experience, I'm not trying to convince you of anything, but we need to get way beyond it, right? I'm challenging what people are thinking. We think God, we've modernized, but God is still back in 2, 3, 4,000 years ago, that what created a universe couldn't advance with us. Why do you think we've advanced? Those ideas come from the collaborative between humans and the creator, this urge to continue to improve life, improve the way of living, raise everyone's living standard, changing things. And yet we haven't changed our beliefs about God, right? We have so many people that kill somebody else because they don't believe in the same way. We even have religions that have killed each other for thousands of years, right? Catholics and Protestants, Shia and Sunnis, who fight to this day, or Muslim and Jewish. I mean, it's crazy thinking. And we're small-minded, right? That's where I came up with the acorn brain, right? The acorn brain, the small-minded thinker, that little voice in our heads. We think like God. We are so far off. It's time to expand our thinking, to move from small-minded, limited thinking to modeling what we live in, which is something infinite, an infinite universe. And so there's so much more possible for humans and humanity when we stop living in fear, right? Like existential crises. I remember that word being used about the climate crisis. We have 12 years to left. That was 10 years ago. We have 10 years left. The climate is going to kill us all. I mean, that is so small-minded, fear-based thinking. Anything that's fear-based. I mean, you go back to religious people or cults. Jim Jones, right, convinced 400 people to drink the Kool-Aid in South Africa. Imagine, right? We still follow people like sheep blindly. The sneaker cult, I forget the guy's name. It's in one of my books. I did research on it. 44 very smart people, some of them with advanced degrees, left their sneakers out because the mothership was coming. And they committed suicide together because the mothership was going to take them, but they had to be dead in this body. And some of the leader of the cult told some of the men they were not going to be accepted at the mother planet, so that they had to get castrated so that they could be accepted to the mother planet. And they did. And he didn't ask every male to do that, but he asked certain ones for whatever reason, right? And one guy actually went to Mexico to get a less expensive castration and died from infection before the mothership came to get him. So he's still waiting for the mothership. I mean, just think of how small-minded all of that is. So I promised to read from my book, and I have done so right up to now chapter 9. And chapter 8 is confronting for people because it's called The Conclusion. And then I wrote chapter 9 because I want to bother people like George Ivanovich Gurdjieff talked about. We have to bother the mind in order to grow. The next book I'm working on that'll come out the beginning of next year is Your Answers Questioned, right? Osho wrote a version of it. And I'm not claiming to be Osho. I have a different subtitle. But I can tell you that's the work. And you can see in this society, especially, how stuck people get and rigid in their beliefs, which is not limitless thinking. It's limited thinking, not limitless like we live in something we don't even understand. Even with physicists and all the modern telescopes doing all this amazing discovery of things about the universe, when physicists get to the day where they say, we know what created this, to start them again on a search, all you got to say is, well, what created that? It's funny to me, right, that we think we are so advanced. It's hubris, elitist, egoic thinking. And we see examples of elitist thinking, especially during COVID, where one group of scientists shut down anybody who disagreed. And the government included, shut down people who disagreed. The Great Barrington Declaration, for example, was started by a few researchers and then signed on to by over 50 other people who agreed that the extreme shutdowns were ridiculous. They already knew that children weren't being affected, that, however, older people and people with comorbidities were affected. That's who could have been restricted from traveling and moving around, not the whole society, closing businesses. And really, a lot of people lost their businesses and lost their livelihoods because of small minded thinking. And it exists to this day. In this country, of course, the United States, we have two parties. It's dumb. That two-party system is no longer serving us because they're so deeply entrenched in making one side or the other wrong. I think we need probably 4 or 5 parties. Now, I think the Democratic Socialists of America are helping us. That should be a separate party from the Democratic Party. And the Republicans probably have 2 factions, right? They have the libertarians. Maybe they become a party. And independents have enough voice to be an official party. I'd start it if I had more time, if I wasn't going to be 74. I don't know. I wake up every day. I get 8,656 extra days. Do the math. Since November 18th, when I flatlined with 2 friends at the end of my bed. I'm grateful to be back every day. So here's chapter 9, Life After the Awakening. After the awakening, I was living without a script. When the search collapsed, life didn't suddenly make sense. It becomes unscripted, or it became unscripted for me. There's no longer a narrative pulling you forward, no spiritual storyline to maintain, no future version of yourself waiting to be completed. We're complete. We just have to live the journey and be in it. Like Eckhart Tolle says, right? To be here now. The power of now. He says, when you fight life, life fights you. Well, I was fighting life because I wanted something very different at the moment than what I had. But my brain was telling me, how? Who's going to buy your work, Steve? And since 2003, they have. I just decided I was out of work for all that time after the health challenge and the gift that I got, the greatest gift of my life, right? The near-death experience. I say God whacked me with a 2x4 to wake me up. That's our job in life. And if you've got small-minded views, I know what they are, and you know what they are. When people say things like, well, it's who I am, get over it, or you're this or you're that, you're a Republican, or you're a Democrat, or you're this or you're that, or you're... Labeling is not from God. Anything small-minded, limited, doesn't come from the creator of a universe, the force that created this universe. Imagine, right? Okay. So the narrative, there's no longer a narrative. There was none for me, right? Pulling me forward. No spiritual storyline to maintain, no future version of myself. It says yourself in the book, but I want to make this personal. Waiting to be completed. The momentum that once drove me toward clarity, healing, certainty, or arrival quietly dissipated. There was nothing else. So I was living from the outside in, meaning titles and what I owned and the work I did meant something to me, like it validated my identity. It was all BS because nothing of that was mentioned in my life review. So after knowing I was one with everything and nothing, the next scene, it was like a scene in a scene that I could not put together, by the way, till I got back in intensive care. And I'll tell you how that happened. The next scene, after the immense mercy and light and grace and love, was my life review, and only the lives I had touched flashed before me. I was 50 and had no idea how many lives I had touched. So I could sense the presence of family and friends that had passed before me. And what flashed before me were all the times I had helped them, then all the times I helped others. All the people I gave money to, bought sandwiches for, helped across the street, helped in any way, helped fix a car, helped someone with a flat tire, picked up someone hitchhiking that needed a ride. And then even people I smiled at. Right? How do you feel when you do good? Think about it. There's a reason we feel good when we do good. So what remained in my life was not an answer. It was life exactly as it is, the now, right? That's why I track the days, 8,656 days. I could add them one day at a time, but I put it on the phone to remind this brain, we got a lot to be grateful for. I'm here again. I don't know if I'll be here tomorrow or even before this ends. And neither do you. That's the argument to be grateful. And when I'm talking about the book, What Reaches You Was Never Meant to Miss You, I wrote that earlier this year. Maybe this book was meant to reach you. That was kind of a tongue-in-cheek subtitle, is that to be grateful. It's similar to the theme that Christ talked about. Everything works together for good. What reaches you was never meant to miss you. It was Muhammad that said that. And then I wrote the other half of his quote. I turned it into a book. What misses you was never meant to reach you. The path to peace. Learning to trust the doors that close and the ones that are yet to open, because this brain wants it now. This brain wants it now. And the thing to do is to be here now. When we're in the past or in the future, or we're upset when something reaches us during the day, because the easy thing to recognize are the joyous people and the joyous events. Oh, they reached me. That's great. Oh, a surprise phone call. That was nice. The ones that bother us are the biggest gifts, right? I got whacked by a 2x4. It turned into the greatest gift. Whacked by a 2x4 by God to get off the track I was on and onto doing my own work. Think about it. That event was one of the greatest gifts. And then as I look back, all the challenges and people that bothered me have been the greatest gifts, because they were there to teach me, to wake me up. There's more about that in my other books, like No BS Coaching, How to Train Your Mind, written by a dragon. You can go to stevelentinauthor.com and you'll see all my books. So for many, this is the most disorientating phase of all. When belief systems fall away, something subtle disappears with them. Certainty. I was no longer affiliated with a faith. I didn't need it. I saw. I was not affiliated with today I'm an independent, so I can vote. I'm registered, but I'm not one party or the other. All the differences are here so that we can learn and grow and learn to accept them, and beyond acceptance, appreciate them. And people today can barely tolerate one another. It's very small-minded, very small-minded. So when belief systems fall away, something subtle disappears with them. It's called certainty. We're so certain of ourselves, right? That's where people say, it's who I am, get over it. No, it's always who we're choosing to be. That's the beauty of this existence when we wake up and rise above the acorn brain. Now, I use the acorn because people can see the potential. This seed has to get crushed into the ground, broken open, and then possibly it becomes an oak tree. Not every acorn becomes an oak tree. It has to survive many other stages. And then I write about the dragon mind that's even higher than the oak. From a higher perspective, that's what we have to learn to do. Become the observer of our thinking. And starting with just you, not the whole society. It's not our responsibility. Now, we can work toward it. We can work toward it. But more and more people would have to walk away from their certainty, walk away from what they believe. And beliefs are wonderful. I'm not trying to change your mind about a belief. Faith is wonderful. Churches are wonderful. Look at the communities. Churches go to missionaries all across the world. Volunteers go to develop clean water in third world countries, develop sanitation, better medical systems, go to hospitals, right? There's the mercy ships and doctors that go. Those are all good things. It doesn't require faith. It requires doing good. How do you feel when you do good? So, not practical certainty when I came back. How to do your job, where you live, how to function. That stayed, right? I had to work, had to make money, but I decided to do something different, my work. It was existential certainty, the internal story that once explained who you were or who I was and where I was going and why things were happening. That was gone. The story is comforting. At least it was for me before then, even though I was fighting life. Even when it's painful, it does provide orientation. I thought I was going to be the best at what I was doing, except I didn't like it deep down and I didn't admit it. See, I wasn't afraid of dying. I was afraid of really living and showing people what I had to say. Because I knew God was larger than the way people describe God or follow the different faiths. Those are human constructions, very small-minded. Many of the faiths were actually influenced by kings and queens of the past, right? Medieval times. They're influenced by it, right? Popes were assigned by kings at one point in time. I mean, really, I understand we're all from God. There's no one that's more godly. No one. I don't care what experience they have, what education or training they have. I don't care. They're human. We're all bozos on the bus. Some days we're driving, some days we're watching, some days we're hanging out of the emergency handle on the back door, flying parallel to the road, screaming, "Oh my God, where's this going? Where's life going?" Everything that reaches you was meant to reach you, and everything that misses you wasn't. It's something to think about. I use it as a guide. You don't have to use it. I don't care. I'm managing me. I have enough trouble managing me. I don't want to manage anybody else or even convince anybody. I'm not starting a movement or a faith or a religion because it's unnecessary. It's unnecessary, at least in my experience. God is everywhere. We have to learn that to come to appreciate this life and everything in it, especially the moments that are challenging, difficult, painful, and bother us. They're there to teach us something. And the greater the difficulty, the greater the gift. Okay, so the story is comforting even when it's painful. It provides orientation, right? You need a story. I'm not saying don't have a story, but most people can't let it go. They gather story until it interferes with their life. And that's how the brain works. Dr. James Doty, in his book Mind Magic, it's a great book, get it. First half is all about he was a neurosurgeon, so it's very detailed about the brain. The second half, I mean, basically he becomes a metaphysician, talking about, think of the brain this way, he said, a file system in the subconscious. He says a file system and a bloodhound. Whatever you put in the file system, the bloodhound goes looking for evidence of, despite any evidence to the contrary. Despite, right? That's confirmation bias, which scientists all seem to get engulfed by it during COVID, right? Because they were rejecting people. Had one group that was sponsored by the government had different ideas, and they dismissed people and challenged people. Even social media got enrolled. All the social media sites wouldn't let anybody post disagreements with the way COVID was being handled because it's small-minded. People were afraid, which is fascinating, right? That maybe we'd all break out and leave open our businesses in defiance. I mean, it was a crazy time, but it was demonstration of small-minded thinking so that we can learn to do something different. Now, will humanity learn? I don't know. I learned. And I learned from my near-death experience, right? I had small-minded views, but my near-death experience taught me something different. It was way beyond my comprehension, right? There's nothing we have to do to enjoy God's love. It's unconditional. That's in the moment. There was no past or future. When I passed from intensive care, there was only the now. And coming back in the intensive care came after I was asked the question, stay or go? And my consciousness answered with thy will be done. Didn't matter. Stay there, come back here. And I was granted what is now 8,656 extra days since November 18th, 2002. So I'm reading from You Missed God on the Way to the Mosque, the Temple, or the Church, How to See God Everywhere. It's a book, one of the books I wrote. And this is chapter 9. You don't have to buy it. You can go on YouTube. I've read all the chapters so that you get my story as to how I created it. So when the mind dissolves, the mind scrambles to rebuild it, right? I came back, the mind wanted me to go back to my old job, go back to I owned a license for a national sales training program that was never going to be mine. My brain wanted me to go back to it. Like, who are you without all this stuff? It wants, so new insights, new frameworks, and new identities. Even if I came up with a new identity, the brain would have loved that. It wants something to hold on to, something to explain what's happening now. The brain wants an answer now. But this moment does not ask to be explained if you embrace it, right? Be in the now. Don't question it. Be with it. It asks to be met. Many mistake this phase for confusion. It isn't. It's openness without a reference. There's no longer a fixed position from which to interpret life. There's many, right? You can think of many and see in today's society, there's so many examples of fixed positions. And people aren't going to let them go because they believe they're right. When we believe strongly we're right, we forget we're making so many others wrong. How about a dialogue? How about understanding? Where'd they come from? How'd you get that position? What made you come to that conclusion? Learn from people. And don't dismiss them out of hand because they have a label. They may dismiss you out of hand, but so what? Let them. Who cares? So many mistake this phase for confusion, right? The moment asks to be met. It's not confusion. It's openness without reference. There is no longer a fixed position from which to interpret life. No elevated vantage point, no spiritual above, no psychological behind, right? We're higher than no one nor beneath anyone. We're all bozos on the bus, as I said earlier. So you're no longer standing outside experience, trying to understand it. You're standing in it. Stand in your experience. Because things will come and go when you have that idea that's like a cloud, right? Some are dark storm clouds. Some are just nice white puffy clouds. Some days there's no clouds. You run your mind and you calm your mind by reprogramming the thinker. Because you programmed it to begin with, by the way. You programmed your mind. So this can feel like groundlessness, but only if you believe certainty is ground, right? Humans and this brain want certainty. But you can change that by working on your mind. Before, everything needed meaning, right? Now, events were lessons, pain had purpose, coincidences were messages. Now something simpler emerges, right? If you don't have to worry and can see God everywhere, and you don't have to go genuflect, bless yourself, pray 10 times, avoid certain foods, watch a certain way, walk a certain way, pray incessantly. If you don't have to, you just are in the moment. That's where God is. So not everything has a lesson. Things happen, sensations arise, moments pass. This is not nihilism, it's intimacy. Without a script, attention returns to the ordinary, just being in the moment. Waking up, brushing your teeth, standing in line, listening to someone without preparing a response. Nothing about these moments announces itself as sacred. That's precisely why they are. When the search ends, spirituality doesn't deepen, it dissolves into life. Earlier, we named the acorn brain, the survival-based part of our nervous system, right here, the acorn brain, that seeks certainty, authority, control, and many other things, right? The brain wants you to be anxious, beware of certain things. Now, it's smart because it's also good. It offers us protection from things that are obviously, right? If somebody's following you down a dark alley, maybe you should duck into a doorway if that's what the brain is telling you. But other than that, you don't want to pay attention to the brain. You want to retrain the brain. Here's what changes now. The acorn brain still speaks. Fear still arises. Old patterns still activate, but they're no longer sound like truth. That's the thing to ask the mind. Is this a fact or just a thought? Especially when you judge other people or think you're right because you belong to some whatever. I don't care what it is. You belong to some faith or political party or movement, or it doesn't give you superiority over anyone. We're all the same here on a journey. And it's our job to learn to appreciate all the differences. That's why they're here. There are no differences in heaven, by the way. I was there. I know. It's all one. I was one with everything and nothing. One with God in the moment. That's where God was. There was no past, no future. Embrace the moment and everything that it brings. And especially the moments that aren't wrapped like you would like. There are the biggest gifts, at least for me. The biggest gift was 1 second being fine and the next second needing an ambulance and 5 days later flatlining. And 100 days in the hospital, not all together, but 60 days straight and 40 out of the next 60, and many more days over the next 2 years, and 6 months out of work. You just notice things. They won't sound like truth. The acorn brain still speaks, fear still arises, old patterns still activates. They sound more like weather. You just notice them and they pass. Emotions still arise, sadness, anger, joy, right? Pain. I'm not going to suggest that we find nirvana here, but you're no longer recruited into a story about who you are. You choose who you are, and you have chosen who you are, which trained your mind. Feeling does not become identity. Sensation does not become self. Relationships change. You stop performing. You don't have to perform. There's nothing to earn here. That's bullshit, right? We just earn because we're living from the outside in validation. We think jobs, titles, writing a book, owning things, validate who we are. None of that is true. You live from the inside out. Be here now. Find joy in everything, and especially the difficult moments and the difficult people, because they're showing you something about you. And difficult moments are here to wake you up. They're about inviting a big change. So relationships change. You stop performing. You listen more. You interrupt less. You interrupt less. You fix less. You don't need to fix anybody. People feel safer. Others feel settled. They're not yours to manage. Presence doesn't negotiate. It doesn't have to. It just accepts it. Life still requires action, though, right? When I came back here, when the question was asked of me, stay or go, my consciousness answered with thy will be done. And I was right back in intensive care. And now I could put all the events together because there's past and future here. I could not string them together, and I was blown away by what occurred. I couldn't talk for some time. I saw my two friends there. I didn't even know that I had left them. And I finally said something happened, and they said, oh, yeah, in unison. They said, you flatlined. The nurses and doctors came running in saying, out, this is it. Call his family. So urgency fades. You act because something is needed, not because you're escaping the present. When you want to escape from something, a relationship, a job, a boss, stay. Get the lesson. Speak up. If you got to complain about the boss instead of gossiping, tell the boss. Maybe the company needs a new idea. Maybe they need to hear it. If you get fired after that, so what? What reaches you was never meant to miss you. Everything works together for good. The prophets have all said that. Perhaps the strangest change is this for me. The need to improve life weakens, right? My near-death experience, I don't have to improve life. I just want to be here every day. And I'm grateful for 8,656 extra days. I wake up here. I know I got work to do, right? There's work to do here. Action. Not there. Not because life is perfect, but because improvement was always an argument against the now. Do you have to improve things? Maybe. All right, that takes a little bit of work. We have to do action here. But in the moment, do you have to do anything? Do you have to be bothered by something you see on the news or somebody's opinion that you don't agree with? Do you have to be bothered by it? No. What reaches you was never meant to miss you. Maybe you have to consider it. Maybe that's why it bothers you so much. Or maybe you're like the people that you don't like, that you're doing some of the same things you would accuse others of, maybe in a different way. Like Wayne Dyer said, When you squeeze an orange, you get orange juice. When we get squeezed, we get what we need to work on. So this freedom does not announce itself. No fireworks, no final arrival, just enough. Enough awareness, enough life, enough moment. Living without a script requires courage. There's no belief to hide behind. You don't need any of your beliefs. You don't. No authority to cite, no future self to justify the present. You meet life directly. That's the risk, and that is the gift. You do not need a script. Life already knows how to live. You are already part of it. See God everywhere. That's the final picture in the book. And then this is about me. I won't read that. So there it is, the whole book. If you go back over all the YouTubes, I've read all 9 chapters. The conclusion was chapter 8, and then I wrote chapter 9 just to bother people. Because a lot of people go, what? How come there's a chapter after the conclusion? Good. I want to bother people. I want to bother people to move from small-minded thinking that we see so much of in this society into encouraging a dialogue and not just tolerating people, but acceptance of all the differences. They're here for a reason. All the different ways that people want to express themselves. For me, it's wonderful. I don't care. I'm not going to judge it. It's wonderful. Let them express themselves that way. You don't have to. So why do you have to comment about how others express themselves or the decisions they make about their life or their body or their relationships or their work, even if they take paths that are what others would deem as addictive or unfortunate? You don't know. You don't know. There's a superior reasoning power, as Einstein said, that created this unimaginable universe, formed his idea of God. And Einstein would also answer when people asked him, what's your idea of God? He would say, go read The God of Spinoza. Go read that. In the 1600s, he wrote it. I suspect Spinoza had a near-death experience like I did and experienced something beyond his comprehension. Because I know when I experienced that, what's next? God, the infinite, on November 18th, 2002, it was way beyond my comprehension, and it left me with all this work that I'm doing today. It left me with my purpose. I left behind the certainty of my old life for this new life and helping others if they want to or not. I'm not trying to convince anybody of anything. I'm not starting a religion or a cult or anything. I'm just sharing. That's my job, to do good. How do you feel when you do good? Help others. Do good. Do more good. That's all that was mentioned in my life review, not sin. Did you learn to walk without falling? No. And for people that don't remember, they say, well, I don't remember. Well, how about your kids? I didn't have kids. How about your neighbor's kids? How about your nephews, your nieces? Any kid that you saw learning how to walk. That's life. Humans fall. And that's how we learn. We look back and go, I don't want to do that again. I've had plenty of those. And I still make mistakes because I'm human. But I know what awaits us. At least me. Maybe it's only me. I don't know. I got a glimpse. In my life review, only the good I had done flashed before me. In the 1600s, Baruch Spinoza, who I just spoke about, wrote that God was saying to him, there's no hell. And he said, do you think I would burn one of my children in hell forever? And so I asked people that. Would you burn one of your children in hell? Which one? How many kids you got? 3. Which one of them would you burn in hell for making a mistake? Condemn them to hell forever. And humans, everyone I've ever asked that to, they're aghast by the question. And then they answer me, well, Stephen, no, I couldn't do that. Okay, so then the next question is, are you suggesting that your love is greater than God's? We are so small-minded. We are so small-minded. And I wrote the book that you missed God on the way to the mosque, the temple, or the church, which is what I've been reading from and what I've read every week, a chapter, How to See God Everywhere. is the idea that we have to earn the love of the creator of a universe. No, we're here to experience it fully. And most people are afraid of truly living because they're afraid of sin and going to hell. But they wouldn't burn one of their own children in hell. So their love is greater than God's, I guess, huh? I don't know. Mine isn't. I wouldn't burn any of my children in hell. And I know I'm not going there. I've already seen where I'm going. It's amazing. Way beyond anything that we've been told in any of the books, right? So we've modernized, humans have modernized our societies, but we still have old beliefs about God. We're reading the old books and pointing at others and say, God says this, while they're in their air-conditioned homes, heating up something on a gas stove or a microwave and watching the dishes get washed in the dishwasher, and traveling by jet and now spaceships. And I mean, humans have advanced. And we think God is stuck in 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 years ago, depending on beliefs. Really? Think about that. That's hubris, egoic, and elitist. Most faiths today, the leaders are elitist, right? They'll tell you how to live. Many of them under a microscope wouldn't survive, right? They lack integrity. Many, not all. What I suggest is never follow anyone or anything blindly, and question your ideas that are so small-minded. And think about that we live in a universe that God created. Here's the earth painted on a marble, right? All the countries are here on a marble. I have that here to remind me that we are very small in relation to the size of, of the universe. Very small. Physicists say that in relation to the size of the universe, it's more likely the earth is a grain of sand. So in your life, the acorn needs to get crushed open. The ego, the hubris, the acorn can become an oak tree. And there's farther and farther and higher in the universe. There's infinitely farther that we can rise above. And that's where I came up with the dragon mind can rise above the oak tree even. So the oak tree's growth. That means you're growing, right? You've got some new thinking. You're questioning your answers. Your answers questioned. That's my next book. Try the dragon mind. Really rise high above when you feel yourself judging others, angry, want people to agree with you. You're mad somebody disagrees. You're judging, gossiping, complaining. If you can do something about it, speak up to the person or people that can do something about it, especially in relationship, whether it's work relationship or personal relationships. Speak up. Don't carry it around. You're the only one wasting energy with it. You're letting it run a loop in your brain, and it's taking your energy. And it's an indicator. The gift in that is the brain is urging you to reprogram it, to rise above small-minded thinking. Let go of this acorn brain and rise above it. The oak tree is one level. The next level is the dragon mind that I'm talking about. Flying above, rising above with a higher perspective, looking down in your life. Do you really need to have all the judgments you have, all the ideas you have about your limits? So many people say, oh, I can't do that. Or they say, it's who I am, get over it. No, we're choosing. Always choosing. Now, it's okay, whatever people choose. I've come to appreciate whatever people choose. It's okay. It's okay. God created this for us to enjoy it and love it. And we are loved beyond comprehension, in my experience. Literally, it was beyond my comprehension. So you got to prove that to yourself. Don't take my word for it. And if you want to reach out to me, there's ways listed in the description of the YouTube. Reach out to me. Subscribe in the channel or not, that's okay. Either way, I'm doing my work. I'm letting it go results and just being happy doing my work. Thank you.